All right, ladies and gentlemen, to moderate our first panel discussion with a very interesting topic, the Metaverse, a new era of governance, is the Chief Executive Officer and President of SQrity Consulting, CEO of Swibble International Corporation, Vice President for Education and Research, Vice President for Education, Cloud Security Alliance, Philippine chapter, and for more than a decade sharing his wisdom as a part-time professor of De La Salle University and a part-time faculty at DLSU College of St. Benilde. Ladies and gentlemen, may we call on Mr. Ricson Singson Ke. Sir Ricson, good morning to you.
Okay, good morning to this side of the world, because I will also greet good afternoon, good evening to all the other attendees from the other parts of the globe. And let us welcome this section of our discussion in the new era of governance. So everyone is talking about Metaverse. We've been talking about, in fact, we're the first organization and event that's been talking about the Metaverse in depth. And no regulatory bodies have not even defined it properly yet. But we are already in a very rich discussion when we talk about the Metaverse. And now for this morning's session, we'll be talking about the new era of governance over the Metaverse. I would like to thank everyone in advance for attending this morning's session. And of course, I would like to share with you the superstars of our segment. I would like to start with, so they'll be introducing themselves shortly, but I'll start with Sir Archie Tolentino of Land Bank. So Sir Archie, just a quick introduction.
Actually, it's a very pleasant good afternoon. It's September 1, guys, September 1. This is the last leg. It's the last leg of the Metaverse Forum. But it's the beginning of the holidays. I would like to greet in advance everybody, Merry Christmas, okay? And then enjoy the forum.
Yes, thank you for that welcome remark. And next would be Valerian Rossignol. Would you like to a few words to start up our discussion?
Sure, and kudos on pronouncing my name. So I lead the sales engineering team of CrowdStrike in Asia, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you all today and to talk about that complex thing that is the Metaverse. So looking forward to that discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And of course, last but not the least, as part of our superstar roster, we have Lieutenant Colonel Roland Javins-Ong.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Roland Ong. I'm currently the head of the systems engineering for Southeast Asia operations of Trellix. And welcome. I know this topic that we will be tackling is pretty much exciting, and at the same time, it somewhat sends shivers, because this is actually something that we have to charter. This is technically somewhat an unknown at this point in time, but we, as your fellow cybersecurity practitioners, will try to address whatever needs to be looked at with respect to this new area that we're covering.
So that is correct, Lieutenant Colonel Roland. We will do it together. Okay, so ISOG and everybody else, our community of practitioners, we will be chartering that course together. So starting now. But before I proceed with the question, I usually start off such moderation with an icebreaker, a very, very quick icebreaker. So I would like to ask, what is your Metaverse handle or your Metaverse account, if any? Or if you haven't thought of any, you just think of any now. So, when you start creating your account over the Metaverse, then you have the account ready. So in my case, I usually use my handle Ricksonic. Okay, it's Ricson
nice.
plus Sonic. So it's kind of techie, but not really techie, a bit cartoonish, amusing, but I hope it works over the Metaverse. So Archie, your handle, Metaverse handle?
Well, probably for my handle, I'll be Morpheus.
Wow. It looks like a very strong character.
You know why?
Why?
Who is the guy who's handling the in Matrix? Who
Oh,
recruited Neo?
The red pill, the blue pill.
Yeah, wow, yeah, I got it.
yes. Yes.
Therefore, yeah, I invited you to Zion. It is the true world, the reality, not the Matrix, right?
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you. Valerian, your handle?
My digital footprint is not so big, but my personal email is like CyberVal, and I created it like 20 years ago. So I was thinking ahead, so I would go for that, CyberVal.
So that was a Metaverse version -1.0 because it's been a decade ago. So we'll invite everyone else over if you can type in the chat box your cyber handle, your Metaverse handle, please share with us. So and then lastly, Lieutenant Colonel Roland, your cyber handle.
Well, I'll probably go with my my usual handle way back in the military service. I'll go with Viper.
Oh, very simple but straightforward. So thank you for sharing with us your handles. Let's now proceed with the question number one. So question number one is, what is the role of the government in the Metaverse ecosystem? So we're still defining it, but what's the role? What's your expected role of the government with the hats that you're wearing right now? So we'll start with Morpheus as the creator of everything.
Yeah.
Archie, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, the government's role is actually they're doing it right now. Right now, the framework is already there. But injecting Metaverse in the current framework is another story. But going back to if we're talking about the internet, internet started during the 1990s, but there was no governance then. Governance in the internet started only with 2000, wherein other types of organizations like the ICANN and sorts of like that were the one who started doing the governance within the internet. But with Metaverse will only be part of that that ecosystem of in the internet, including Metaverse right now. But it will be just like cloud computing, which is only part of the internet governance, right? But with the advocacy of, especially of DICT, Sir Secretary Ivan Uy was saying a while ago, with the Metaverse, the government will also be providing awareness especially for the schools and the government as well, for us to embrace the new kind of technology.
So thank you for that, Morpheus.
Yeah.
So we will ask also CyberVal, what country are you currently in?
I'm in Singapore. I live in Singapore.
So probably you can share with us some insight on the Singapore government's role. Singapore's government's role.
Wow, I think I echo Archie. This is a bit early stages. Defining Metaverse hasn't been done yet, right? I mean, some people are saying it's Web 3.0, it's blockchain, is NFT, it's gaming. We have no idea what's the Metaverse, of the future. So I think at this stage it's a little hard to build, governance and policies on top of that. But yeah, let's start with awareness. I think it's the best thing we can do at the moment. Awareness of the risks of the promise of the Metaverse. But yeah, I cannot say really what Singapore has in mind at the moment. I just saw that there is a 3D replica of Singapore now, a virtual twin, digital twin, the biggest that has been created so far. So it's a practical use of energy and environmental collection of data. But definitely Singapore is gonna jump in that Metaverse.
So thank you for that, CyberVal. And probably Singapore can start topping you as part of their Metaverse construction, governance construction. So with you being ahead, talking about it right now. And of course, lastly, we'll call in Viper.
Yeah, actually, just a rejoinder to what my good friend Archie and also my former colleague Val, no, I think the as far as the cybersecurity policy and frameworks, yes, it's true that it's in place already, but I think the need for each government to continuously revisit it, because if you have to look at it, we, in the cybersecurity practice, we consider ourselves the good guys. Are somewhat, in a way, uh, at some point, playing catch up if we are to look into specifics as far as government policy is concerned with regards to cyber. And I know that since Metaverse will be the next, I would say, the next level in this cybersecurity realm that we talk, then I believe strengthening and making the government's policy pertaining to cyber, to which Metaverse is actually a part of, this must be continuously, I would say, reviewed and updated in order to adapt with the ever-evolving threat landscape that we face. And especially remember that when more than 2.5 years ago, when we were all, shocked, and we're all forced to live a digital way of life, even the first world countries were, I would say, caught with their, quote unquote, pants down. And looking at that, you see that their direction immediately is revisiting the current policies, how it will be adaptable to the current situation that we're facing. So I think the key here is, framework will be in place probably already, but the need for it to be seriously looked at, making it updated, and also putting in the necessary guardrails necessary, especially with respect to, I would say, consequences for the bad guys whenever they're caught. Because I think this is something that not all the countries have that very much concrete policies in place.
But I like that part that you mentioned, no, Viper. I like the part that you mentioned that there should be consequences for the dark side of cybersecurity, which I strongly agree. And implementation is a key as we move forward this new age or this new platform, as we have discussed now, which is the Metaverse. Now, the second question is somewhat related to what you have already shared. What do you think, or would you consider as the pressing needs for governments? Now, this is not just a Philippine government, but we'll talk. Metaverse is all about a global platform. And what would governments of the world prepare? How would they prepare? And what are the most pressing needs that they need to prepare on in terms of data protection, cybersecurity, digital identity, and policies, no? Country, international level policies. So which area? I mean, there's so much, like, we don't know where to start. And if a handful of them are listening now, so what, in your own experience or sharing, would you tell them what are the steps that they need in the area of preparation for this new platform? So this time around, we'll start with Cyberval.
Yeah, so look, one of our big fear at CrowdStrike with the Metaverse is that the dark side is going to go even deeper, right? So with this concept of avatars, it might mean that a criminal might go even deeper undercover as opposed to today. So I think the government could play, a role in that to make sure there are regulations in place, to make sure there is some sort of KYC, make sure that, the entry bar, there is some sort of controls. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely easy for evil and cyber criminals to just do whatever they want in the Metaverse. And we are seeing that already, right? There is a lot of crypto phishing. There is a lot of fake NFTs, MetaMask and Phantom. So definitely it has started. So if we don't want to have a massive wave of cybercrime in the Metaverse, at some point we need some government to intervene to make sure that it's regulated. But it's going to take a while, right? Look at the crypto, right word. regulation in the crypto world has just started. It's just the premise of it. So it's going to be the same for the metaverse.
So the honeymoon period of crypto is over. I think that's the right way to put it. Now, so Viper, what's your insight on what government should be preparing?
Well, I think adding to what Val had already mentioned, the key here is since at the end of the day, the challenge that each country will is facing is there are cases wherein government may not be that fast in crafting specific rules of engagement when it comes to cyber, right? And at the end of the day, even enterprises will end up doing their own I would say implementation, so to speak. And one thing that is very much important in this endeavor is, of course, for the government to seriously look into cyber, for one, as a national security concern. Because for one, if we put more emphasis on this, since everything now is being worked on in the digital world, right? So then the most pressing need for them to look into is, like what I mentioned earlier, is of course strengthening the cybersecurity strategy and the policy. And if you were to look at it, it should be more. It should be put more emphasis as far as our national security plan is concerned, as far as our national security strategy is concerned, which in turn now will also look into the other aspects like the digital identity, specifically on data protection, and since these are the components that will be needed anyway when we move to this next realm of cyber, which is metaverse. So I think the need for us to really, well, I don't know if DICT's plate is quite full, and I believe in the case of the Philippines, and the need for us in the private sector to be part of it, is also, I believe, a good way in helping the government, address these pressing issues that we have.
So Lieutenant Colonel Viper, I like the portion that you have mentioned will be aligning with what we have already. Now you have the cybersecurity plan, you have the digital plans of the government, and governments of the world have such components already. The policies that they have already, and we don't have to recreate everything because there's a new technology. There are principles that applies to whatever technologies that's available. And we have to just make sure that we align them together. So that's the area that I'm really stressing out with what you have shared with us. So finally, Morpheus, take it away.
For the in my case, in the government's case, since I'm a public servant as well, I mean the pressing need right now for the government is how will the enterprise, like the Microsoft, Felix, CrowdStrike, will help the government. That's the pressing need right now for us, because we need your technology, we need your investment, of course, for us to support this kind of endeavors right now, especially for, as the RJ was saying a while ago, that the framework was already there. And how will we proceed with this kind of endeavor going to the metaverse? Again, how will you help the government? That's my question.
Morpheus, I like to also quote the American president who said that it is not what your government can do for you, it's what you can do for your government and country. So I believe that is the proper rephrasing of the question. So what we can do. And I believe our governments, the governments of the world, they don't come up with policies overnight.
Yeah.
These go through rigorous process and thousands of brains working together to come out with a single policy. And we are talking about a new thing already, which is not much data is available. So how can governments of the world immediately prepare policies? So we have to be aware that they go through a proper process to make sure that these policies, that's why, as Lieutenant Colonel Viper has mentioned, these policies can contribute to future generations of technologies. That's why we have to think of it that way. So it's not easy for governments to just tell them, okay, just prepare this tomorrow, next week, we'll be loading the Metaverse version 1.0 to the community. So I guess everyone would agree with that. And moving into our next question, we have one quick call question specific to CyberVal of CrowdStrike. What kind of threats can we expect targeting the Metaverse? Because it's a new technology, everything's free. What would we expect at least early on? What has CrowdStrike saw or seen that would be possible vectors of attacks that would interest the black hats?
So the attack surface has expanded drastically with the Metaverse, and what we're seeing is, interoperability is a core concept of the Metaverse. There will be multiple systems sort of connecting to each other through API and microservices. So we expect to see a wave of API abuse, microservices abuse. So the attacker are going to try to subvert these and make the API lie and manipulate them for criminal reasons or state-sponsored reason, whatever it is. So that's one of the threats. Number two is, we talked about it earlier, crypto phishing, fake NFTs. I mean, this is the low-hanging fruits, basically. It's having fake digital assets and selling them and making money out of it. We have fake MetaMask wallets. I mean, this is happening already. We have a lot of these things that are happening in the wild. And the third one I would think is, I like that quote that I've seen. Data is the currency of the Metaverse. And as we get into augmented reality, virtual reality, with this headset, they are collecting a tremendous amount of biometrics, right? Health data. So imagine the potential misuse of this data is there is a breach, for example, these companies and attackers have access to your biometric data. So these are three example of threats that we expect to see growing in the near future or right now.
That already sounds scary. Not just scary, not just scary, meta scary.
Yes.
So yeah, it's and we're just starting. This journey is just starting. We have already itemized a number of vectors. Imagine these hackers are more innovative than us, that they try to explore even newer ones. And we are on when we go to the enterprise, there's always a stage when we deploy systems. There's development, and we have test environments and all that before we arrive at production. So imagine during the test environment alone of the Metaverse, the hackers are like flies flying already on that plate of Metaverse. So that's how I imagine what you have shared with us, CyberVal. It's scary, but we have no one else to turn to but our ecosystem, our partners. You have CrowdStrike, you have Trellix, you have all of these that we will work together. So the next question now is working together. Okay, so how can we implement local, national, or international collaboration in the Metaverse? So who would be like if we would implement communities, how do we now derive these communities? Like, should they be formal? Should we come up with an international, like like an ICANN or an international agency to handle the Metaverse? What's your insight on that? So we'll start with Morpheus.
Actually, Ricson, it's already started with Meta, with Facebook, with social media per se. With Facebook, they already begun preaching that Meta, but right now it's the turn of the other providers to inject their ideas or collaborate within that ecosystem and then they should speak in one language to be able to communicate with each system. But who will spearhead that? that we don't know. As you were saying a while ago, it's either the icon or there's this one body who will act as as the one who handles the regulations within. But that's another story, probably 10 years from now, and wherein they will still have to develop the regulations for that. Just like as I was saying a while ago, wherein the internet started at 1990s, but the regulations were only in the 2005, right?
Yes, no. So yes, we are lagging in terms of governance, but it's still a timely response because, as I've said, no, the process of creating such infrastructure, legal governance infrastructure, is not an overnight thing. No?
Yes.
Right. So let's now move to CyberVal. CyberVal.
Yeah.
Your insight on an international organization.
So I hope, you know, end users will team up to some extent in users community to also define the metaverse, right? As you mentioned, that quote from the president. I would like to see citizens defining what it will be for sure. But from a vendor perspective, I would love to see a coalition of vendors, right? Sort of vendors banding together and defining what are the threats going to look like in the metaverse, how we can sort of elaborate a schema that is linking together different technologies, whether it's an endpoint on a network, you know, whatever it is, to form a shield, basically, right, together as vendors. So that's a bit of a wish, personal wish, that to see that alliances of vendors to protect the metaverse. And this has to be international, obviously, right? Many different vendors in different areas.
So we're hoping to see the metaverse version of the Interpol. Okay, later on.
Yes, but wait, Rick, there's probably another version of the dark web in the metaverse.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Huh?
that would happen.
Yeah, that's very interesting because you know when we talk about how dark can the metaverse be.
Yeah, the dark metaverse. Yes, that will happen definitely.
And then what's interesting is you know how that ecosystem will function, how that underlying underground world would evolve itself, and we are also observing them. We are learning. So I think that's the point that we have such sessions and community events like this to really make people aware of the evolution of not just the internet but our digital society, right? So Lieutenant Colonel Viper.
Yeah, I think adding to what Archie and Val had mentioned, I believe on my part, I can say that we can leverage the existing I would say, organization that are currently put in place specifically on cyber. And I believe I can give a snappy salute to ISOG for initiating this metaverse as their team for this year's ISOG event. Because if you look at it, whether it's on the local, national, international front, there are organizations that are already, or I would say cooperation that is already being made. Now, if you look at on the national level, I mean, the Philippines is part of the ASEAN CyberSecurity Council, wherein the very first, I would say, the founding chair back then was the director back then of the Department of National Defense, which is jointly co-chaired by, if I'm not mistaken, that's New Zealand. And this is a cooperation wherein each country, I'm talking on the international side, right? But this in this case, regional in nature, to ban these ASEAN countries into having this so-called cooperation with respect to cybersecurity. And the idea there is, of course, giving some sort of experiences, lessons learned that one organization or one country might have experience already, so that the others may learn from it, and it hopefully becomes a norm. It's a community-based type of collaboration. And in the defense, even I'm actually part of the multinational cooperation and interoperability program for the US Indo-PACOM, wherein it covers the entire Asia-Pacific countries with, of course, with the United States spearheading it under Pacific Endeavor. This has been an annual collaboration, but in this particular aspect, it's just like ISOG, wherein your different information security officers of financial institution are banded together. In this case, it's a collaboration of the different armed forces, specifically with their CAIS and cyber, and there's a specific activity wherein even an actual simulation on a disaster response as far as cyber is concerned, when a Ukraine type of attack was made in cyber way back then, right? It's done. What will happen? How will the other country cooperate and collaborate? And I believe that can be a starting point in the case, in our case here for financial institutions in the Philippines with ISOG and another organization as well, which is the Joint Cybersecurity Working Group that the United States Legal Attaché of the U.S. Embassy had formulated, wherein we are all also involved. It can be a starting, I would say, point for us to even move it up and discuss how we can address this next level of or next realm in cybersecurity, which is the metaverse. And anyway, it will be all of us who will be involved in there just the same, because we're all focusing cyber.
Thank you for that, Lieutenant Colonel Viper. So the key takeaway, I think, it's we have to start breaking barriers. We should continue to create communities rather than talking about we are a different country, our practices are different. No, the hackers, they're not of any specific nationality now. They treat themselves as global entities, and I believe the joint cooperation, it would start there. How countries would help each other create international communities and societies, not only to protect themselves, but to evolve what we want the metaverse to be, a safe environment to be in, right? So now that we've discussed so much already about the metaverse governance, I like to now throw the question of how metaverse in the setting of creating country infrastructure, like for example, metaverse would come into a country and it would definitely create its own ecosystem on a country level, like how e-commerce is doing. Because the metaverse, as it was defined earlier in some of our sessions. So by the way, our audience, they can review using our, they can access the Facebook page to access our previous sessions and events. And if e-commerce would come into a country, then there would be physical facilities or ecosystem also built, like logistics and all that. So we expect metaverse to be like that, like the devices they'll be using. So by the way, for those who were able to get your VR glasses, right? So these are just examples of devices and infrastructure that can be built. So government now would treat this as a critical infrastructure. So if that's going to be the case in the future, that everything would be loaded on the metaverse, how do you think should we treat the future infrastructures, critical infrastructures? How would government react? Do you agree first that metaverse in the future would be considered as a critical infrastructure, and how can we protect it? Let's start with Cyberval. I'm sorry to put you in the spotlight.
It's all right. I don't know if it's going to be considered critical infrastructure, because at the end of the day, it's we're going to reach a point where people do whatever they want in a way, right? They just can buy a VR headset and then go in a metaverse, and it's going to be tough to make it a critical infrastructure. But the part of the infrastructure that we can do something, at least CrowdStrike, is the metaverse. Breaking news is running on containers, is running on microservices. That's what it is, right? It's a digital world, but it's running on an infrastructure, and endpoint protection from our the Crossfire angle, we can do something. We can protect these containers, these microservices. Today we have 1 billion containers that we protect. So tomorrow, as the metaverse grows, we will have multi-billions containers that we want to protect. So that's it's something that we can do right now. And from a protection angle, again, I think we got to bring security closer to the developers as well. The shift left concept, whereby we have gaming companies that are going to implement add-ons, modules they're going to plug into the metaverse. So we don't want them to introduce vulnerabilities, to introduce avenues for the hackers to get in the metaverse or to exploit some of these weaknesses. So security by design is another thing that everybody needs to think of when building anything from for the metaverse. I think these two elements are things we can do right now.
So even if it's going to be a critical infrastructure or not, you still apply security by design.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. So Lieutenant Colonel Viper.
Yeah, for me, I think I look at Metaverse as an integral component of the entire cybersecurity infrastructure. So, of course, I totally agree with Val on the aspect that whether it's a critical infrastructure or not, security by design must be always followed. So, for me, I would say that the key thing here, since Metaverse is still, in a way, not yet in the mainstream, so to speak, but we have to understand that this Metaverse will definitely run and will be integrated in the existing infrastructure that we are using now. And the key here is also to heavily protect the infrastructure, the different vectors that can be the possible entry point of attack of the bad guys, and eventually come up with a framework that is readily adaptable to cover the metaverse realm, should we, I would say, institutionalize it moving forward. And that's the main reason why, specifically, I talked about the XDR as a framework, as a construct, because at the end of the day, the different microservices, the different applications that are integrated and are tightly, hooked up into this common infrastructure will need to be protected at all costs. So the need for us to really zero in on the existing infrastructure that we have, the different vector of access that we use, because take note, I mean, if you look at how things are going on now, we see a lot of these attacks, right? But you see that one of the highly, I would say, exploited vector of attack is still the email. And at the end of the day, once it gets through there, then your profile will end up to be, compromised. Then that also includes the access into that next layer of metaverse. If you're having a common profile just the same. And since it's interconnected, then the possibility of it to be laterally spread, I would say, to that layer will be very, very imminent. That's why protection of our existing cybersecurity infrastructure must be seriously looked at this point in time.
So thank you for that, Viper. No? So I can't imagine email is becoming a legacy system already. At our age, we've gone through a lot from BBS modems and all these. No? But it's so fast. Everything is so fast. No? So, but I agree. No, we cannot leave behind even the legacy systems, the old email as a vector of attack going towards the metaverse and the future technology. So thank you for sharing that with us, Viper. Morpheus, your turn.
As for you were saying about the critical infrastructure, right, Rick?
Yes.
When you mentally replace the metaverse phrase with cyberspace, and 90% of the time it's the same. It's the same. Therefore, under the internet governance, like critical infrastructure is with the cyberspace as well. Therefore, metaverse is within also the cyberspace. That's why actually there's no change. That's why I agree with Val and Lieutenant Colonel Viper here. And that's why I don't see any issues with the critical infrastructure. Well, we're putting in metaverse within, since it's already with the cyberspace. Because metaverse is riding within the cyberspace. If you notice, it's only a platform within the cyberspace, right?
So it's a platform over a platform, right?
Yes,
Platform over a platform. It's very, very interesting insight. No? So when we now treat it as a platform over a platform, you don't just protect one platform. You have to protect all these platforms. Right? So I don't want to go into the multiverse, Marvel multiverse.
That's different. That's different verses.
Where you have to protect all the dimensions, right?
Like
so,
Inception, the movie. I mean, we're going deep now.
It's going to be a different moderation and discussion moving forward. But I like to end the note with from everyone. But rather than ending with really lengthy takeaways, we'll end it with a wish. Okay, so every one of us will do one wish of what we want the metaverse and cyberspace and safety moving forward. So if you have any wish, what is your wish for the metaverse? So we'll start with Morpheus as the creator of everything.
As for that, what's the wish of the Zion people, right? That's the wish. They are wishing for peace, or safety and security. That's it, right?
Yes.
In the matrix. That's why they want to avoid the matrix. Yes.
Yeah, that's very timely, very aligned. Let's go for CyberVal. CyberVal, one wish.
It's similar. Let's hope we can create a safe environment where people can evade, and be very creative. That's going to be our challenge as security vendors to make it safe for everybody, to go far and go wherever they want to go.
Yeah.
Thank you. So it sounds like Star Trek. It sounded like Star Trek, CyberVal. So and finally, Lieutenant Colonel Viper, your wish.
So actually, I share the same view with both Morpheus and CyberVal. What I wish is, of course, for a cyber-safe environment for everyone, especially for our kids, right?
Yes.
And so that at least me and Val will not have too much sleepless nights moving forward. Right? And of course, for every one of us, vendors, right? Having a good night's sleep.
Totally.
Viper, the doctors say that condition is insomnia, but we in cyberspace, we call it insecurity. So it's not insomnia, it's insecurity. Yes. So so also I have my last wish also for this segment. I wish that the next generation will carry out all the experiences that we have gone through. Do not throw away what we have experienced, our failures, our success. And I hope in this journey towards the metaverse and how our future generation, even our young ones. So to inform everyone, ISOG is very instrumental in the creation of the country's Bachelor of Science in CyberSecurity, which is already running with the first batch of students with the College St. Benilde. But we will not stop there. So I believe ISOG and all the other associations, not only in the Philippines but global, we will continue to support education for the next generation of our cybersecurity professionals. So we need not only an army, we need a society, a community already for this future metaverse that we are crafting now. So I hope our wishes would all come true. If we only have a cake and a candle, we'll just blow it. But no, kidding aside, so thank you again, everyone, for attending this session of a new era of governance. So back to you, Diane.
Thank you very much to our great moderators, Sir Ricson, and to our powerhouse panelists, by the way. Very nice and interesting Metaverse handles. Ricksonic, Morpheus, CyberVal, and Lieutenant Colonel Viper. Thank you very much for that very engaging discussion. And I know all of us really learned a lot from your insights about the Metaverse, a new era of governance. Thank you again, dear gentlemen.